Hey everyone, welcome to Pals Chat. I am Gina Parker. I'm here with my co-host Sadie Teal.
What's up? It's
I
me.
like it. I like it. All right, Sadie, what have you been into this week in your busy schedule?
Mostly doing a lot of like fun, fulfilling things that in a vacuum I love, but smashed all together, it's exhausting. But I helped shoot a video today. I went to this premiere of a different video that I was an extra in, and that was fun. And oh, last night I rewatched Wet Hot American Summer. That
Oh,
is a fucking great movie.
it's so good.
So good. I've seen it a million times and it still makes me laugh. And I just love Stella so much that I mean, like their humor, they know comedy is silly. You know what I mean? It's
Mm.
stupid. It's not always extremely witty and smart. Although I do think they're smart writers, but like, they know that just visual gags and like slapstick stuff is funny.
Oh yeah, there's a segment where someone's doing stand-up jokes and it's everyone's reacting as if it's the most hilarious, like if there was a gas leak or something that made them act
Yes.
so crazy. It's so funny. What did you think of the
I'm
re
so old. Yes, I love that scene so much.
What'd you think of like when they did the Netflix limited series, like first day of camp and years later? And
Yeah, I liked the first season of that a lot. I think the first season was really good. I don't remember the second one sticking with me that much, but I do think the Chris Pine plot of, the rock star and coming up with that song at the end, I thought it was fun. I really enjoyed that season. And I think Michael Showalter is one of my favorite comedy writers, so it was nice to see that voice again. But I need to rewatch the second season because I'm having trouble really even remembering it.
I think was it the 10 years, 20 years later, whatever one,
Yeah.
they where I think it was John Hamm was killing everybody, or was that the first day of camp?
No, that wasn't. I don't think that was first day of camp.
But
Maybe. I don't know. My brain sucks.
Janine Garofalo trying to unravel all the plot things that happened like in character and like John Hamm and Chris Maloney are just like they don't have answers for how the plot played out because it's Wet Hot American Summer. And so she's like, okay, but then if you were the good guy all along, why did you kill this guy back in episode 4? And they're like, you know what? I gotta go. I don't have time to explain. That stuff
I
I
love
love.
Janine Garofalo. Like incredible dry comedic performance in Wet Hot American Summer. But like she's able to be really goofy in like a way that doesn't feel I don't know. I love it. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. And I think the scene because I watched it with somebody who hadn't seen it before. The scene that got the biggest laugh was the motorcycle chase where he's running. Joe Latruglio's character is chasing after Kid Marinos, and like they just jump over a haystack. It's like silly in a way that I think a lot of comedies are like too worried about being based in reality now, or like the funny person is like a funny friend you would meet at a bar. It's not like some ridiculous scenario. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I do think Tim Robinson is bringing that kind of like silly comedy back, but
Yes. Yes.
fantastic.
Based on your thing, I'll say my recommendation for the this week will be Barb and Starr go to Vista Del Mar.
I love that movie. I do love that
Yes,
movie.
because it caught me right at the right time. Like it came out during COVID when everyone was trapped in their houses and couldn't go out, and it was so dumb, but so funny and enjoyable. The premise is two women go on a vacation to Vista Del Mar, Barb and Starr, but it's it's so ridiculous, but like fun. There's like music videos in it.
Incredible. An incredible character-based comedy. Like keying into those like funny little nuances of being those like lame Midwestern women. Fantastic work.
Yeah, so dumb and funny. That'll be our recommendations this week.
Yes, absolutely.
All
Dumb and
right.
funny is just as important as any kind of like, drama with gravitas or whatever. I think dumb and funny is great.
Well, yeah, that's Something I want to film this summer, I've already started filming B-roll today, is for our Zoom movie. If you guys are still up for it, I don't know.
I'm always up for it.
Should we get into the soaps now?
Yes, I gotta know what's going on.
So again, we have to dive into the background. So,
Okay. Well, lay it on me.
slacks.
Honestly, I'm ready to float down this lazy river of listening to you tell me all these torrid tales of. I'm ready to just relax, listen, and enjoy the wildness of their lives.
So our first episode that we're talking about is September 6th, 1978. But we
Cool.
have to do some background. So Nick Davis, I've been talking about him every episode. He's Phil's long lost biological father. He's also the best friend of Erica Kane's mother, Mona. And they were childhood best friends. They've been best friends the whole time. Well, somewhere in the game, Nick and Erica started having an affair,
Oh my.
as you do. So Erica was super into him. She was all, he dumped her. And so this September 6th episode, she's marrying a retired NFL football player named Tom Cudahy. And there's a point where Nick calls and then she starts freaking out like, oh, maybe I'll ditch this guy for Nick on my wedding day. But then Nick's just like, oh, just calling to say congratulations. And she's like, oh, I guess I'll marry him. And her mom's like, this seems like a bad idea.
Yeah. If your reaction was about to be, I'm gonna throw it all away if this guy says he likes me, that's probably a bad sign.
Yeah, but she goes through with the wedding anyway, and her mom just kind of enables her like always, and it's just like, okay, I think this is a terrible idea, but okay.
Yeah. Although in the 70s they had weird thoughts about marriage. Probably watching it, they'd be like, yes, go through with it. She's strong. I don't know.
And so we have another character, Christine. She's mad about not being able to buy a house. She's got a lot of stuff going on. We're not going to get into it because she's only in this one episode. So, then we have the love quadrangle that we've also been talking about the whole time: Chuck, Tara, Phil, and Donna.
Mhm.
So Chuck is cheating on his wife Donna, who's the ex-sex worker, with his ex-wife Tara because her son doesn't like his biological father. He likes his stepfather, Chuck. They're all drawn to each other again. And then it looks like Tara's brother's about to catch them in the act. And that's where
Oh.
episode ends. Our
So it
next,
looks like they're about to catch. So it's like the door, they're like a hand is going for a doorknob. It's about to twist and they're on the other side. Like, what's the suspense
so
hanger?
Jeff is in the car with Christine. So Jeff's wife Mary died in the last episode. She was the shot while pregnant lady. And so he found new love with Christine and he's like, I know, let's go surprise my sister. She's home alone. And then so they're
Oh, no,
driving
she's
up.
not.
She is not home alone.
She's not home alone. What's gonna
Mhm.
happen?
So we're jumping over for December 26th, 1978. Paul
The
Martin
day
is,
after Christmas.
yes. Paul Martin is requested as a lawyer in Landview, and the only reason this is significant is because it means they were doing a crossover with One Life to Live. So, soap
Oh,
crossover.
fun. People were losing their minds for that, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's this
Did,
character, it's that character. I do that. I lose my mind for that shit too.
what are some of your favorite? Do you remember any good crossovers? I'm trying to think.
I don't know. Like, I was thinking about the Buffy Angel crossovers that happened. Like
Oh, those were
when they were
good.
still on UPN before, didn't they switch? Like Buffy went to a different network than Angel at the end.
Yes, they were on like the UPN and then the WB. So I think they were on the WB first, and then they
Yeah,
switched to
and then
UPN.
Buffy switched to UPN, but Angel was still on WB.
Yes.
Yeah, so then the crossover stopped. But that little period of time where there was, that was always fun. It's always
Mm-hmm.
something so slight, but oh, and also Doctor Who and Torchwood. That was kind of a cool, like
Oh, those were good
Jack
too.
Jack Harkness. Anyway,
I feel like
Proceed.
that was like more of a staple in the 80s and 90s, like when networks were more of a big thing. And it does seem like something they should bring back because it's so funny.
It is fun. I would love to see some of these streaming shows intermingle the same way that like they would promote, oh, this Thursday, I don't know, what was on Urkel's on Step by Step or something, you know?
Yeah, that's fun.
It's fun. Oh, you know what else is fun from the 90s that I think should make a comeback? Fun intros with fun character montages and like music that you get all hyped for when the show's starting, you know? Now it's all depressing. I start a show and it's like some like CG haunted house and like a doom doom. It's like a really low
Like a
minor
CGI
chord.
title card and
Yeah.
yeah,
Which
a
at
sound
first
effect.
was cool, but don't you remember getting so fucking hyped when those credits were playing at the beginning where it's like, oh, like I think I'm thinking of Buffy again, but you're like the moments. I remember those.
I still think of Thank You for Being a Friend from the Golden Girls. I mean, that was
It's a
like a
great
theme
one.
song everyone knew because and associated with the hit show. So, yeah. If you ever make a show, Sadie, I want you to have a
Hmm.
theme song.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I might get Lady to sing it.
That'd be great.
Like an Alan Thicke one. Anyway, keep going.
So we were talking crossovers, and then Ray Gardner, who was Tad's father. So Tad was the kid who got beaten until his bones were broken and then abandoned in a state park.
Oh, poor kid.
So he was living with Jeff and Mary. Obviously, Mary got shot and died. And so then Jeff goes to his mom and dad, Joe and Ruth, and is like, hey, can you take Tad? Because I don't want him to be an orphan again. And so they're trying to adopt him now, which brings his abusive father back into the picture. That's Ray Gardner.
Damn.
And so he's targeting Ruth Martin, Tad's soon to be adopted mother. And then we have the next episode from 1978, December 27th. All agrees to go to Landview to represent somebody. And then the Martin family is worried when they learn that Ray Gardner has escaped prison. And
I'd be worried.
we're not going to get any follow up on this storyline in the episode, so I'll just tell you he goes on to rape Ruth.
Oh God, that shit, I hate that on a daytime show. Not
Hmm.
necessary. But
So
that's a
our next,
classic Stark thing too. Even like they would do these non-consensual such situations that weren't referred to as rape, but like a woman wore my wife's perfume and it was dark and I was drunk, so I thought it was her. That was always the funniest thing to me of like she was wearing her perfume. Do you remember that as a trope in soap operas?
not that she's wearing perfume, but rape is something specifically in All My Children that sometimes they handle amazingly and sometimes they handle terribly. And I think it depends on the writing regime. Sometimes someone gets raped and it's not called as rape, though. In today's
Hmm.
eyes, we clearly would.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is. And I think eh, the most problematic things they would do on this show in particular is do rape as redemption because it's a well they kept going back to, which is there's a woman in town. She's a bad girl, quote unquote bad girl, and then she gets raped and then she's a good person from there on out. And it's like, okay, trauma can deeply affect people and like cause you to reflect and maybe change your ways. But they went to this well so many times. And I'll throw some names that won't mean anything to you yet, but Brooke English, Julia Santos, Gloria Marsh, they just kept doing it over and over of like, she's awful and she's done enough bad things that it's going to be hard to redeem her. So we're just going to have her be raped and then she'll be a good person and everyone's going to be nice to her because they feel bad she was raped. And
Mm, mm.
I'm like, just do the work. Just do the work
Yeah.
to make this character turn around if you really want that.
Well, and is there any, this is like the sick old like way people used to think on things, like there's no aspect of these are the bad girls so they deserve it. Is there in these types of plot lines?
I think we'll have to revisit and keep watching. But I think some of the ways they use rape in All My Children over the years is very problematic. And then there's some that were actually very interesting and ahead of their time. They have something coming up in 1987 that we'll get to talk about, which is Ross and Natalie. And Ross has been a character on the show for several years, and Natalie's been a character on the show for several years. So there's enough buy-in to each of them as characters.
Mhm.
And it's one of those things where he was like, we just had rough sex, and she says, no, you raped me. And they had a very fiery relationship. And so it really is the kind of character driven and also like the skewed perspective of men and women. And it's actually handled very well for being in 1987. You know,
Yeah, that's interesting.
like I feel like it could air now as
Hmm.
with the same story beats and still play very well because
Wow, that's cool.
it's layered. Um it's not always like that and we'll see that. So it's just one of those interesting things of these long form television shows. You get to see sometimes they really hit the bullseye and sometimes they don't. So
Yes.
we'll we'll see. And our next clip is Eddie Durance threatens to withhold pills from Kelly if she doesn't perform at the chateau immediately after getting out of the hospital. So it's like a
Wow.
restaurant with live music, the chateau.
Uh-huh.
And so she was the in-house singer and he's like, I'm gonna tell everyone you were on pills if you don't start performing right after you get
What
out
an
of the hospital.
asshole.
Hmm.
The chateau will survive one night without your singer.
Hmm.
This woman needs a new job.
So after this clip, Eddie is murdered.
Oh no.
Well, not oh no, he
I
deserved
mean, yay.
it.
Yay.
And that brings us to November 27th, 1979. Basically, Tom and Erica are having marital problems now. So they got married, even though it was a questionable idea. They got married, and he just found out she's been secretly taking birth control pills, even though she told him she wanted to have a baby.
The subject matter, he can fuck off, but great acting.
And I mean, she does lie to him a whole bunch. So it's
I
like the
mean,
straw.
what was the disco deceit? Do you know?
Ooh, I'd have to look again. She's up to
Disco deceit.
so many little schemes and scams. And yeah, I think there's another episode where they're still married, where she's still scamming on him.
He loves it at this point. If you know what, that's your relationship, man. Just own it. You love your little tricks and treats that she gives you.
Yeah.
Little disco deceit.
His name's Tom Cudahy, who's like old school Catholic. Women should be in the home, you know,
Wow.
raising the kids, barefoot and pregnant type thing. And I think it takes him like 20, no, 15 years to grow out of it. So,
Do they
um,
ever have fun in their relationship? Is it one of those soap opera relationships where it's like literally they're just like making cutting remarks at each other constantly? And you're like, why are they married?
it's one of those like he was this glamorous football player guy and she's like a model in the making or she was a model, she's still going to be a model in the future. And so it's like, oh, we're both pretty people who enjoy the limelight kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And then they realize after marriage they have wildly different
So
values.
it's like why every bachelor marriage gets a divorce kind of thing. Like, oh, they're so hot and attracted to each other. And then they're like but we have nothing in common. Some of those conversations, do you watch those reality shows like The Bachelor or
I don't.
um Love is Blind? Some of the conversations I'm like bored. Like they'll be talking about like, the most basic small talk you've ever heard, and then it'll cut to them being like, "We really connected. I'm in love," and I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?" It's great.
Mm, sounds great. Yeah, I think Erica and Tom are both basically good people, like more him than her at this point, even though he's a little bit of and I think it's good that he's kind of problematic because it's the thing another thing soaps used to do well, which is have different viewpoints so they could really explore something and how people would react to things. And so he's kind of on the wrong sides of issues, but those are how people really felt about those issues at the time.
Mhm.
And some might still feel that way. And so it's just like, oh, we're two basically good, very attractive people who want totally different lives. That they didn't figure it out until after they were married. Uh, which I do think happens to people along
Yeah,
with
that's
those
a real
bachelor
thing.
couples.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so what else do we have? So we have Langley, who is someone of all the people so far, I think you'd actually enjoy seeing Langley. He's an ex-carny con artist
Ooh,
who's like conning this rich lady, and he gets to play a lot of the comedy because he's conning Phoebe Wallingford, and so he's worried someone's gonna find out his true identity as an ex-carny lowlife um before he can marry her.
ooh,
And I think you'd enjoy him because he's so funny, but also like in a ridiculous kind of way.
nothing.
I, I'll keep an eye on him because his daughter on the show is played by Carol Burnett. Uh,
Nice.
so I'll show you down the line some stuff.
Oh
Are
yeah.
you a Carol Burnett fan?
I actually have not watched a lot of her stuff. I know her as a iconic comedic performer that has influenced a lot of the comedic performers that I know and love. You know what I mean? Like, I bet you Lauren Lapkus really loves Carol Burnett. You know what I mean? Like, I know
Mm.
that she's part of the context that has created advancements in comedy, but I haven't actually watched the show except for maybe some YouTube compilations of them breaking. Those are fun.
So
Do you like Carol Burnett or
I do. I
nice,
enjoy. And she's someone who's popping up on things. Like she was on an episode of Better Call Saul, I think, in the final season, and
nice.
uh she's in a new show called Palm Royale. She's still getting after it.
Yeah, definitely a blind spot that I need to address.
No worries. Maybe you'll see
I'm
her
in
in
comedy
this
court. Oh yes, okay.
because she has a story and she's talked about it on talk shows, which is she got onto All My Children because she was such a huge fan and she wanted to be
Nice.
on it. And she said, back in the 70s or whatever, no one had VCRs, right? So she went on a vacation with her family to Europe and she told one of her friends, like, just write down everything that happened so that I can catch up. And her friend sent it to her hotel in Europe, and the people in Europe thought it was stories from her real life friends. They were all concerned for her that, like,
Oh my gosh,
oh no,
they
your
called a
friend Donna
tabloid.
got taken by her pimp, like
What are you gonna do?
they were trying to comfort her and she's just laughing hysterically.
That's hilarious.
Oh. And I think she got into it through her kids because it was targeted towards the teenagers and then she just got hooked into it.
That's so interesting. Do you think those teenagers grew up to be the '90s moms that loved soap operas, like the Days of Our Lives crowd and stuff? Because I feel like that demographic definitely shifted at some point.
Yeah, it was definitely a generational show. And
Hmm.
what's interesting about All My Children, specifically about the years we're talking about, is in 1979 it was the number one soap opera in the United States. and its audience was half men. So it wasn't
Oh
the
wow, that's
yeah, it
shocking.
wasn't the stereotypical like only women are watching. It had the largest male audience of any. And people would say like, "Oh, my dad, had a bad back injury and had to stop his construction work, so he started watching All My Children because it was on in the middle of the day, and then he got hooked into it." And people
It's
say like,
hard
"Oh,
not to. Like they've got the formula down. It's like the same formula that Lost developed later of like they hook you in the last scene. It's like, oh, I just got to watch the next episode for resolution on this like cliffhanger.
and I think for a long time, All My Children had a great recipe where it was one comedy storyline, one ridiculous over the top soapy storyline, a normal drama storyline, an action storyline, and a love story. And they usually would juggle a few of those throughout the week. And so there was something for everybody to hook into.
Yeah,
Like
that sounds great.
if you want to laugh at the characters, there's Phoebe. If you want to watch a love story, there's Phil and Tara, whoever. If you like want to see a Ray Gardner escaping from jail, like there's a little something for everyone to kind of latch on to at that point. I think eventually it lost the recipe, and then by I think the late 2000s, it was just like pure soap and not good soap. They lost touch of what the audience wanted. There was a lot of network interference after it got bought by Disney in 1995, and
Mm-hmm.
it didn't,
That damn
there,
network interference. That happens a lot where an executive comes and fucks something up. Oh
yeah, so
well.
for the first 25 years of the show, they owned the rights and then they sold it to Disney because, Disney ABC, it was a network show.
Hmm.
But yeah, network interference. They were saying, oh, these certain characters shouldn't be a couple or shouldn't get as much screen time, and this character should get a lot of screen time. And it's like, no.
No.
And it just got really lopsided.
Dang.
But we'll get there. We'll get there to the dark ages. But, but, and so also in this episode, Link, who's Phoebe Wallingford's son, he tells Kelly that she couldn't have possibly killed Eddie Durance because he has since been murdered. And so she was worried she killed him because he was blackmailing her in the last clip, about going and performing at the chateau, where he'd tell everyone she was on pills. And I think while on pills, she was worried she murdered him. But her boyfriend Link is like, no, you didn't. Great news.
Awesome. You love to
And
hear it. I like her. I'm rooting for her because right now she's in hell. She's like an old school like Judy Garland type
mhm,
awful situation with an entertainer. Is that what's happening? He's getting
mhm.
her on drugs and like
Yeah. And the actress who plays Kelly actually became one of like the producers of the show after she stopped acting on it, which I think was
nice.
an interesting move for a woman to make that time.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then Paul and Ellen go on a date, which is just interesting because I think they just ran out of things to do with Paul the lawyer, and Ellen was in between men at this point, so they got together and went on a little bit of they started dating.
Was the chemistry hitting? Was it a good date or was it oh
Well,
not good?
it was like fine. It's like it's fine, but you're better with Mark, Ellen. So what are we doing
Mm.
here? What are we
Was
doing
was
here?
it just a way to make her realize that she really loves Mark? Like, what am I doing here?
I don't think she realized it yet. As an audience
Okay.
member, I was like, get out of there.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll show you Mark maybe in a future episode because I know he does pop up and you can see him in his little short shorts.
I like the sound of that. That sounds great.
Oh yeah, Mark and Ellen were May December romance for the time.
Oh,
So she's
oh, like
older and
nice.
he's younger, and so yeah, you'll see his little short shorts. Though
Oh
they actually look very close in age because the 70s was a hard time on our
yeah.
bodies.
Yeah. You see yearbooks from the 70s and it looks like just fully adult people in there. It's wild. And they used to cast like what, 37-year-olds in high school.
Mhm. But I mean, he's not like a high schooler. He's supposed to be like in his 20s, she's in her 40s.
Hmm.
But I mean, they look like both. But I mean, that's why they're a good match. They look good together. Um, yeah. So that's it for this week, and then next week we'll finish up the 70s and go into the 80s.
Ooh, now we're gonna get into some good fashion. Some real interesting shifts in what you're visually gonna see are gonna happen. Are you already seeing like the trends are starting to change?
Mm-hmm. That I think, if memory serves, a lot of next week is going to be like masquerade ball.
Oh, fun. Oh,
And I
there's so
can
many things that can go wrong in a masquerade ball.
and I can
Who
just
murdered who?
show it
Okay,
to
go
you with the
ahead.
sound off so that you
Yes,
can
I want to
see
see.
all the stuff next week. But oh yeah, and it's going to get gothic and weird, which is going to be
Okay.
fun.
All right, I'm in.
Alrighty, well, I guess that's it.
That's it. Cool. Well, I don't know what to say except all these people are so troubled, and I hope they can work it out next week. When you come and tell me their story, it's all just about happy times they had.
Well, it's going to be masquerade ball, so
Sounds like a party. I'm hopeful that everything will go well.
yeah, someone's going to get chased by dogs. I'll give you a hint.
That just sounds like fun. Now, is it a fun dog situation or is it like
No, it's my
Doberman
dogs are gonna
pinchers?
eat you because I
Damn,
want
release the
revenge.
hounds. Oh
But
my
it is a release the hounds, actually.
God.
It's a
Yeah.
very rich man with his Dobermans sticking them
Release the
on
hounds.
somebody. But I'll save that for next week.
I can't wait. Now I'm very excited.
All right.
Cool. All right. See you, Gina.
Well, bye.
Bye. Well, bye.
Thank you for listening. Our theme song is Wouldn't It Be Nice by Sound Mirage featuring Lady Rand. Please rate and review, download, subscribe, all the things. And you can email us at amcrewatch@gmail.com. Thanks. Talk to you next week.